Power to the Princess. Zade and the 1001 Ideas. Not all princesses are born into royal leadership. Some climb up and claim it for themselves. This is the story of one such princess, Zade, or Zadie. In an ancient land, now buried in dunes and history, there sat a great empire made up of many kingdoms that stretched from sea to sea and mountain to mountain. In this empire lived a great mix of people and magical creatures. The empire was ruled by a powerful, business-minded sultan who ran it as a company called Sesame Enterprises. The sultan was an innovator, and through Sesame, had created an empire on the cutting edge of technology. He hadn't done it alone, either. For years, he had a business partner, a woman with whom he worked alongside, carefully growing Sesame, cultivating a world-renowned reputation. Then one day, the sultan's business power left abruptly for a rival empire on the other side of the world. The sultan was heartbroken at what he felt was a betrayal. Soon, the company and empire suffered. Sesame's inventions began to fail, and the mood in the office was low. For years, many had sought the role of partner, hoping to help run Sesame alongside the sultan. But the candidates rarely lasted a day, with the moody sultan finding fault with them and firing them on the spot. Every day the sultan got up, brushed his teeth, looked in the mirror and complimented himself, then interviewed a candidate for the vacant job of partner, sometimes hiring them, only to come up with a reason they weren't good enough and firing them that same day. There was Samira, a promising architect, but the sultan thought her sunglasses were too dark. There was Rajani, who tamed tigers to pull a water wheel, but the sultan was allergic to cats. There was Kiran, a gifted landscape designer who had plans for an irrigation system, but the sultan didn't like that she was taller than him. But Zade was different. She was the daughter of the sultan's advisor, the vizier. Growing up at the heels of her mother at work, Zade had access to the company archives. In fact, that was where she spent most of her free time. Zade perused all the books and collected in her memory many tales of history, poetry, philosophy, science, and the arts. This made Zade wise, witty, inventive, well-read, and a great candidate for a job at Sesame. Zade's mother was against the idea. She worked closely with the sultan and knew well his petty, whiny ways. But Zade was confident. Plus, she had an idea. So finally, her mother agreed to secure her an interview in the sultan's office chambers. Zade arrived at the great palace. Inside, the halls were eerily silent. Zade passed empty desks, dusty plants, and blank chalkboards on her way to the interview. It was like a cemetery. No wonder the company was lacking inspiration and creativity. Zade found the sultan pouting behind his desk. She cleared her throat. "Show me what you've got so I can dismiss you already." The sultan waved airily. "What makes you think you have something my great mind doesn't? Pitch me." Zade took a deep breath. "Well, may I start with a story of a product no one can do without?" The sultan was tired after months of failure and firings. "A story? I haven't got time for stories," he said grumpily, making to get up. Zade blocked his way. "Picture yourself alone in the village. All your worldly possessions in a tiny house. This is how many of our country folk live. What does this have to do with Sesame Enterprises?" puzzled the sultan. But Zade pressed on. Outside rove bands of thieves on horseback. Throughout the night, you can hear the hooves like the rattling of a cage. Imagine yourself stepping away from home, fearing for your property, friends, and neighbors already struck by thieves, their livelihoods lost. How can you ever find peace of mind? The sultan listened as Zade pitched her invention through an elaborate tale of 40 thieves that strike villages in the dead of night, citizens trembling in fear, nothing to stop them. The day passed into afternoon and then evening until Zade noticed the time and stopped in the middle of her pitch. "Tomorrow, I'll share with you the blueprint I've created for a state-of-the-art security system to beat thieves. It links villages with law enforcement and dispatches dragons." "I want to see the plans now," said the sultan. "Oh no, look at the time. I'd be happy to finish the pitch tomorrow. I'll be here bright and early." With that, Zade walked out of the office. Her mother had been waiting for her outside and peppered her with questions. "What happened? You were in there for ages. Did you get hired? Did you get fired?" "The sultan will have me back tomorrow," Zade said with a wink. And he did. The following morning, Zade showed up bright and early at the palace, just as she planned, and strode into the boardroom. There she found the sultan, an eager audience. She finished the pitch with a big reveal, a working demo. First, Zade sprinkled fine sand around a mysterious box, then hired a pickpocket, appeared and swiped a necklace of jewels. All of a sudden, light erupted from the box. The sand formed into a mound and became a dragon, who seized the pickpocket immediately. The Sultan was impressed, but he didn't show it. He simply raised his eyebrows and asked, "Is that all you've got?" "Oh, of course not. That is just the start." Zade pressed on. "I've got another invention developing that I think is right up your alley. Have you ever had a clumsy friend or family member?" Zade spun off a story all about epic klutzes, lost left shoes, keys left in locks, and all sorts of foolishness. "This is called foolproof and will keep a person from getting in their own way. We lose much time and money to inefficiency. This will revolutionize the everyday. No more searching for a to-do list or emptying your pockets looking for, 'What's with all this talk? It's getting late. When can I see the prototype?'" interrupted the Sultan. "Oh, it is late indeed," piped Zade in fake surprise. "Well, we will just have to finish this tomorrow." And she packed up her things and zipped out of the room before the Sultan could object. Zade arrived the following day and finished the pitch with a fancy prototype for a gadget that one wore on the wrist, which emitted a tiny trail to a number of personal belongings. Whenever the wearer needed anything, they would simply tap a glistening thread and the desired item would appear. Before the Sultan could catch his breath, she launched right into another invention. She'd already captured the Sultan's attention for longer than anyone else, and she wasn't going to give him a moment to even think about firing her. She knew she was qualified, challenged, and eager for the position of partner. Zade also knew Sesame Enterprise hung in the balance, and she had a chance to save it. The next idea she described was a love potion that came in a special lamp. When a person rubbed the surface, it collected their true heart's desire and emitted a pink mist whenever that person neared a good match. That proposal turned into the next, which turned into the next, and before long, hundreds of inventions had been proposed. With each hour, the Sultan kept Zade on, first as a candidate, then as an intern, and as her inventions and ideas were put into being, he was forced to make her an associate. The Sultan eagerly anticipated the finishing of the previous day's idea, invention, pitch, or story. Zade had carefully researched safety kits that deployed a genie to help those in distress, tents that could also be coats, an aqueduct that served a great desert, even a chariot pulled by trained birds to help conserve energy. And in these inventions, the Sultan found a match for his creativity. As Zade reached the top of Sesame Enterprises, she had one last hurdle to jump to get to the top. The job she had sought all along, partner. For this final story, what happened to be number 1001, Zade brought out her bravest moves yet. She reserved a larger conference room, and when the Sultan sat down, she announced, "We will do this in just one sitting." "We?" the Sultan wondered aloud. Zade then opened the door of the conference room and invited in 2 other staff members. "For this presentation, I'll need some assistance. You see, the most ambitious ideas take many minds, and here at Sesame, I happened upon some of the greatest. Once there was a young prince poised to be the Sultan." Zade started bravely. The Sultan furrowed his brow. He had 2 sisters. The 3 siblings fought all the time to impress their parents, always stepping on each other's shoulders to get the most attention. Their parents were tired of their nonsense and set them on an epic quest to teach them a lesson. Zade and her colleagues laid out 3 key items: an apple, a telescope, and a rolled-up rug. "This is Laya. She'll present the first idea." Laya stepped forward. The first sister's journey took her to a monastery where she was awarded an apple of wisdom during a test of conscience. "We could really make this." She held up the apple and it opened in sections, revealing maps and letters and computations. It would be like a library in the palm of your hand. Zade's eyes lit up. The Sultan's did as well. "And next we have Rose." Zade introduced her other colleague. Rose raised the telescope. The other sister met a monstrous troll on her journey, who she wrestled and won an all-seeing telescope, an expert navigation device that could show the user to their loved ones anywhere in the world. "Rose's engineering team can start on this right now," Zade proclaimed. The last sibling, the young prince, had spurned offers of help along his journey and found himself lost in an unfriendly marketplace. He cried out for help, and his sisters heard him. One used the apple of wisdom to discover his location, and the other used the telescope to navigate the way to him. He was so relieved to be reunited with his sisters, they agreed to stop their quarreling and be stronger together. Just as they embraced, the carpet they were standing upon lifted magically in the air and swept the trio home to their family. Zade unfurled the rug in a grand gesture. "We could make this magic carpet with our team of textile conjurers here at Sesame." The Sultan nearly applauded. "These are the most inspired, cutting-edge ideas," he said, stepping toward Zade. He put his hands together to clap. then extended one to her to shake. I wasted too much time being threatened by those who wanted to work beside me. Your work and the work of everyone here has rebuilt this company. If you'll accept the position as partner at Sesame Enterprises, I'll be so grateful. I'd be delighted. Zade shook the Sultan's hand. On one condition. It's time to rebrand. I'd like to call the company Open Sesame, Minds Open for Business. And with that, the Empire had a new leadership team. Together, Zade and the Sultan revolutionized the lives of those around them and helped nurture young inventors, no matter how dark their glasses were, how tall or strong, so long as they had great ideas and believed in a little bit of magic.